Could you give a stricter definition of what Perush Shalosh Amanu Mimosha means? Because Chidushim and new ideas are they play a large role in the halakhic system also.
Yes, that of course is true, but Perush Shalosh Amanu Mimosha refers to the Machon, the claim of certain sects in the ancient past that Shavuot must fall on a Sunday, right? Mimaharat Shabbat. That is a Perush Shalosh Amanu Mimosha. In other words, it's to do with the actual essence, the quintessence of the mitzvah. First of all, when is this day? What is Mimaharat Shabbat? What you do on that day is another question. First of all, when is this day? How do you know when this day is? Well, we have a clear masoret how we know and what we need to do to arrive at that piece of information when Shavuot is. And any claim to the opposite effect is a perush shalosh amanu mimosha. That is a perush which attempts to undermine and contradict the Torah Sheba'al Peh in an explicit way. If another example, I do think that the example we mentioned before of sleeping in a sukkah is also a valid example, because it's a very it's explicitly written in the Mishnah. It's obviously what Hazal received and what they teach. Any claim to the opposite effect, that all of a sudden, no matter how hot or cold or wet or dry it might be outside, you should not sleep in a sukkah, is clearly contradicting the Torah Sheba'al Peh. It doesn't state explicitly in the Torah to sleep in a sukkah. It doesn't say explicitly to eat in a sukkah either. It says teshavu, which means really to reside, to live and be in the sukkah for 7 days. And in the Torah Sheba'al Peh, this is broken down and in detail. So it speaks about eating, it speaks about sleeping, etc. The claim, the general blanket claim that sleeping in a sukkah is wrong, is not a good idea, and you should not do it. Not because it's cold, not because you're mista'ir, because it's too hot, or because the mosquitoes are eating you alive and you can't sleep, in which case you're patur from the sukkah. There's no argument about that. Or that it's raining, or whatever it may be, or it's dangerous to sleep outside because of crime, what have you. Crime or friendly or not so friendly neighbors of various ethnicities. And this I mentioned very deliberately. I remember decades ago in the Iratika, in the Rova Yehudi in Yerushalayim, Jews who do not have a mirpeset to build a sukkah in their home, built sukkot out in the street in the Rova Yehudi, in the Jewish quarter in the Iratika. And there was no problem to do so. The security situation since that time, which I remember well, has deteriorated to a degree which is difficult to describe. So already many, many years ago, I think at least 20 years ago, Rav Avigdor Nevensal, Shlita, the Rav of the Rova Yehudi, a Tamid Muvhak of Gaon of Shlomo Zalman Auerbach Zatzal, he said that people should not sleep in a sukkah outside, because there were cases where Arabs were attacking or threatened, or it was simply no longer perceived as viable and safe to sleep in such a situation. So in that kind of situation, there's no mahloket that you do not sleep in that sukkah. But to claim that it is because of some new spiritual insight, some mystical understanding which overrides the Mishnah, that's an extreme and outlandish claim. Another classic example would be if a person said in tefillin, you need to have not 4 parshiot, but 5 parshiot. I received a nevuah, or I understood this by learning, by studying Kidvei Ha'ari or Sefer HaTanya, that there has to be a fifth parasha in the tefillin. Okay, well, that's a classic example again of a perush shelo shamanu miMoshe. This has nothing to do with what we call hidushim. In other words, we have a mitzvah to make a baracha on whatever it is that we eat, shall we say, and there is a discussion amongst the poskim what the proper baracha is for a particular food, shall we say, and a person comes up with a powerful proof why it should be this baracha, not that baracha, or why the position of Rashi is not as it was understood by so-and-so, but in fact Rashi meant to say something else, or Rambam's opinion is not as misunderstood, but really Rambam holds such and such with regards to this question, even though maybe it's not a furash, but you can understand from something else that Rambam says perhaps elsewhere that this is what he thinks about this question. That's a chidush. That is an insight into the Torah, into the existing halachic system. And so it's a refining and clarifying, adding clarity and profound understanding of the concepts and of the parameters of this halacha, of this question, but it's not changing anything in the system itself.
Thank you, Rabbi Bar-Hayim. We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. We would also like to suggest the following opportunity to our viewers. If you identify with Rabbi Bar-Hayim's message and would like to sponsor or dedicate a video interview with the rabbi in honor or memory of a loved one, if you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.